Shalom everyone, today is May 13th, a bit after 6 p.m. in Israel. Sun is about to set over Lebanon, which tells you that we're in the north of Israel. I have a special guest in our update. It's a unique update, so stay tuned. It's going to be a bit longer, but you better watch it all the way to the end. There's a lot of information. Let me introduce my guest, or maybe I'm his guest because it's his own homeland, Ilan Shulman. Thank you for giving us an update. Ilan is a Middle East specialist, or actually Northern Border specialist, and many of you who's been to Israel knows him. He's taking us on jeep tours to the border with Syria and sometimes other places. He lives here in the Golan, and I came to get some updates, and I think people will be interested in what you have to share. So thank you.
Of course.
And
Thank you for having me.
maybe we should start with where are we exactly located. I think it's a unique location.
Okay, excellent. So first you can see on the back, so that's the border with Syria. We can see the fence from here. We're practically standing on the roof of the former headquarters of the Syrian army, pre-67, before the Six-Day War. It's practically the backyard of the kibbutz also, which means that you cannot see, but over the camera we have the lands of the kibbutz, different farming land of apples and cherries and truffles and other things, special things
Yes.
that we grow here in the area.
That's part of the fun being here and looking at it right now.
Exactly, means it's gorgeous here, very lush, very green. It's practically feels as the end of the winter, even though it's the beginning of the summer. We had a strange winter this year. And the lands of the kibbutz practically touch the border with Syria, which means that over the headquarters we can see a reservoir. That's a way of the kibbutz to accumulate rainwater during the winter. In addition, we have floating solar panels on top. Once on the other side, we already can see over the border the part of the Israeli positions and the new obstacle that was built by Israel on the Syrian side.
Yeah, there's a tower over there, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, so if you can see
It's
there
already in Syria.
that looking tower, that's something that was built by the Syria, but right below we have a big position being manned by a company, by 100 Israeli soldiers. It's part of a brigade that we have on the Syrian side.
So what's basically going on in Syria in terms of Israeli-Syria connections?
Okay, so it's a pretty good question, because I think that many Israelis ask themselves what's going on now in Syria with the regime change there and the new guy that's running the country, whether he's more Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani, means the ex or still jihadist, former one of the founders of Al-Qaeda Syrian branch, or this is Ahmad Ashara, as he preferred to call himself today, being the president of Syria, that undressed the jalabiya, wore the suit with a tie, and shake the hand of Trump last year in Riyadh, and then gave a speech in New York in the UN General Assembly on September, and then after even played basketball with Brad Cooper, the commander of CENTCOM, and
Well-recognized leader.
Yeah, and was sprayed by the column of Ivanka. Seems like he and his foreign minister Asad al-Shibani. So it's a big question who the guy is and where he tried to bring Syria to, and it's a question that Israel definitely asks itself on a daily basis, and especially being here on the border or on the Syrian side.
I think people ask themselves in Israel, and whoever been here can see it maybe, but Israel took an action after destroying a lot of the capabilities of the former Syrian military. So these jihadists that we don't know who they are will not. What Israel did here in the border to sustain security to the civilians, to the kibbutzes, and to everyone who lives here.
So the fact was that, yeah, we didn't know much about Jawlani, about this character. He, for us, was one of those side effects of the Syrian civil war, a war that started in 2011. And in a matter of months, we started to feel it here along the border in terms of 56 different groups, militias, considered as rebels, but part of them were freedom fighters, and part of them were just tribes trying to protect their villages and their people. But part of them were jihadists, and Jawlani was one of them. The thing about Israel that it was less concerning once the fighting was mostly among themselves. And from time to time, the effect on Israel was in terms of spillover, which means that the shelling was taking place very close to here, as you can see. And from time to time, there were mostly mortar shells landing in Israel.
Not
so that's
anymore.
something, not anymore. But that's something that, of course, affected every farmer that worked here so close to the fence, and even the kibbutzim. Gradually, things started to look a little bit different, and when I say look different, it was mostly since July 2018. In July 2018, in the end of the month, the Iranians managed to take over. And when we say Iran, it means that was Iran bringing different militias into Syria. Part of them were Iraqis, part of them Afghanis and Pakistanis, in order to support the Syrian regime, but also it was about the Iranian interest in Syria, which we can summarize by saying 3 times location. First, the importance of the Syrian location was the fact that Syria connects between Iraq, Iran, and Lebanon, which means that's a crucial part of this land bridge connecting the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea, what they call Tariq al-Tahrir, the road of freedom.
Yes.
Which means the idea was practically supporting the Shiite axis that was built. So we could see a lot of smuggling of weapons crossing Syria through the mountain that we have a little bit further north, Mount Hermon, which only 7% of was in Israel and 10% in Lebanon and most of it in Syria, and other different routes, which means that for us, we could see the Iranian entrenchment in Syria in terms of those different militias mostly, less Iranian officers that were there, even the Revolutionary Guard Corps was definitely active, but mostly in remote. And we saw definitely Hezbollah building their strength, getting to 150,000 missiles and rockets, something that we started to deal with during this war in Lebanon.
The situation is not like that now. I mean, like after, what is it, like beginning of 25?
Exactly. So there were different things that part of the Israeli ministers even took responsibility for or the credit for. I would say that Israel took care of its own interests during this war, but we say the enemy of my enemy is my friend. Adu aduak sahbak in Arabic. So in this case, I think that it worked a little bit different. In Arabic, people will say, Ana ala ahi, I'm against my brother. Ana wahi ala bin ammi, I'm my brother against my cousin. Ana wahi wa bin ammi ala jirani, I'm my brother and my cousin against my neighbor. Ana wahi wa bin ammi wa jirani ala gharib, I'm my brother and my cousin against the foreigner. And in this case, seems like that we all had the interest to fight against Hezbollah. But I'm not saying that that's something that was done together, us and the different rebels groups in Syria. So yeah, Hezbollah killed many people there in Syria. Many were executed by Hezbollah. There were massacres in different areas, and there was a lot of they were eager to revenge. For Israel, that was Hezbollah that decided to support Hamas. And once the attack of Hamas started on October 7, less than 24 hours, we started to get shelling and rockets launched from Lebanon.
Yeah.
And that's something that Israel dealt with. The end of that, or at least we thought that that's going to be the first stage and the most crucial one, was on November 27, 24, when we actually signed a ceasefire agreement with Lebanon. And the fire supposedly stopped. Less than 24 hours after that, the rebels in Syria that were pushed by those Iranian militias, the Syrian regime, and the Russians that were all on the same side, to a region in the northern part of Syria by the Turkish border that's called Idlib.
Yeah, that's the guy who played basketball with yeah.
And suddenly that guy that then I don't think that he dreamed to play basketball with the commander of CENTCOM, from a jihadist became a state builder.
Yeah.
So I can't say that Israel paid much of attention to that part because we were busy to deal with those Shiite militias that gradually entrenched in those villages along the border and practically trying to replicate that model that we have in Lebanon into Syria.
Give it a general name, Hezbollah in Iran. We were
exactly
busy with this enemy.
Exactly. It means we were busy with the Shiite axis and we were less busy or not busy at all with the Sunni axis.
Yeah.
But here's something big happened in Idlib. which means this guy, Abu Muhammad al-Jawlani, still having a bounty of $10 million on his head, American bounty, started to talk and behave a little bit different. First of all, the guy that was practically the commander of Al-Qaeda came and said, I'm not Al-Qaeda anymore. Gradually we understood that he's actually doing rebranding. How come? Syria, for Israelis, it thinks that this is a hostile and a very radical country. But actually it wasn't. Most of the people of Syria are quite seculars. I can't say that there was much of Islamism in Syria. It was almost illegal. And the president of Syria wasn't exactly a Muslim guy, Assad.
Assad, yeah.
He was an Alawite. So here Jawlani realized that he needed to present that ideology of Al-Qaeda different.
Yeah.
In order to get, first of all, public support. He knew the Syrians pretty good. The guy was born in Saudi Arabia, but he was practically raised since 8 years old in Damascus. So that was one thing. The other thing was that Al-Qaeda was practically persecuted by US and by Russia. In this case, they were together. So here, Jawlani came to the Syrians and said, I'm not a global jihadist. I'm actually a local jihadist, which means I will use jihad. But in the same time, I will take care to your rights in Syria. Yeah. I will make your life to be much better. And he established there in Idlib a government which he called Government of Salvation. And that's something that gave hope, mostly because of the fact that it wasn't just fighting against Assad and the Shiite militias of Iran. It was actually building a government with ministries that could provide people social services, economic services, education. Once we look at the education program, it was Dar al-Wahy al-Sharif, it's called in Arabic, which means that's practically the education system of Al-Qaeda. But in addition to memorizing the Quran, for example, something that every child required to do, it was also about studying science, math, which means secular things.
Yeah.
And that's something that was very special for this guy. And the ability to unite all kind of different groups around this new brand that now called HTS or Ayat Tahrir al-Sham, the Front for the Liberation of the Big Syria. The name is crucial to be understood here because of the fact that what's the Sham? Balad al-Sham, this term in Arabic, it actually includes Syria, but also Lebanon, and also Israel, and Jordan.
Yes.
That was the name. The name of Jawlani, that's his non-Gadir name. His real name is Ahmad Ashara, but here the name that he chose is Abu Muhammad of the Golan. That's where we're standing now. This is the Israeli Golan that was then conquered in 1967. Which means that we saw that group getting bigger, stronger, getting more influence and more internal support. And when Israel managed to degrade Hezbollah, I won't use the word defeat, but I will use the word that we managed to degrade this Shiite axis, which we practically brought it to crash. If Iran tried to build a ring of fire around Israel, and in the day that they will decide to destroy Israel, they will operate all those militias coming from Lebanon, from Syria, from Iraq, from Yemen, from Gaza, to fight all together against Israel, they failed to do it. And here, those Sunnis realized that if the top of that Shiite axis is Hezbollah, now was degraded / defeated by Israel, that's the way that they described it, as a defeat.
We're talking about 3 months after the pagers.
We're talking about December 24, the pager attack was September 17.
Yeah.
So they realized this is an opportunity now to do more. But there's another thing getting here to this equation. I cannot say that the regime was replaced only by different Sunnis / jihadist groups there in Syria. There was another very, very significant figure that was involved, and I would say even more, even commended that, and that was Turkey. Because parallel to that force that was built by Jawlani, there was another force that built by Turkey that called in Arabic Jaysh al-Suri al-Khur, which means the Syrian National Army. And by the name, we also can understand that that's an army that's practically supposed to replace the army of Syria, which means here we need to understand the perspective of Turkey. And this is not the same Turkey that joined NATO, This is not the same Turkey that talked about joining the EU. This is not the same Turkey that US then decided regarding to build 2 American bases in Turkey. One of them is one of the biggest in the Middle East, Incirlik, with tactical nuclear inside. This is now Turkey that's turning to be more and more Islamist, led by Erdogan.
Yeah.
And in 2016, this guy stood on a big stage saying, if the world can understand how come Turkey has forces in Syria, Iraq, Azerbaijan, Pakistan, Cyprus, Libya, Niger, Chad, Somalia, Sudan, and Qatar, so the world cannot understand what Turkey is about. Turkey is greater than Turkey. And here we started to understand the aspirations of Turkey in Syria. But meantime, it was all in one district of Idlib, where about 3 million Syrians, opposition groups, or those ones that support them, were practically displaced too. And now once they realized that there's an opportunity, in a matter of 11 days, with the help of Turkey, managed to breach the borders from Idlib to the rest of Syria, defeated the Syrian army, defeated the few Shiite militias that were left over there, got there to Damascus, and now we're having a new regime, which we're still trying to understand the nature of.
But Israel, I'm sorry for getting to right now, because I know the sun is going down and you have to go soon. But what we have here, so is Julani taking over. Right across the border is Julani's land. But Israel took a step and took a buffer zone, right? I think people are not aware of it. And we annexed it, we took it, what do we say about it?
Okay. So the first stage, once we look today in the buffer, the first thing that we see over the fence, it's practically a barrier. And that barrier is looking as it was built on the Syrian side. So no, it actually was built along the ceasefire line right after October 7. Right after October 7, when the Iranians were still there, we're concerned from an invasion coming from the Golan to those 33 communities, those 50,000 people that live here in the Golan Heights. Yeah. And therefore Israel built that barrier, which I called in the beginning anti-Toyota barrier. Because it felt as we're trying to prevent October 7 with those Toyota pickups and having machine guns in the back. So that was right after October 7, regardless to Jawlani, without expecting that something like that will happen. But now we realize that we have jihadists, practically Al-Qaeda, that managed to get themselves a state. This is the first time that it happened. Maybe it's going to happen in the future in Mali. But now it happened, or then it happened in Syria. In that point, Israel, first of all, decided to destroy all the capabilities of the former Syrian army, destroy those weapons, including Navy, Air Force, intelligence, Armor Corps, everything, in order to prevent those from the jihadist groups to put their hands on those weapons. And in the same time, we actually conquered the buffer. But when we say the word conquering, I'm not so sure that it's accurate in order to describe the situation here, since it's not that Israel controlled the land over there on the Syrian side. First of all, we're talking about a narrow strip. The widest part is up there on Mount Hermon, a strategic location that can stop Hezbollah from smuggling ammunition crossing Syria into Lebanon.
Yeah, look on your maps, you'll see how Lebanon and Syria are connected north of Israel.
Exactly. Second, the rest of the buffer is something like between a mile up to something like 6 miles wide. That's a narrow strip with 1,000 Israeli soldiers, which means a brigade, occupying 10 different positions. In every position we have pretty much a company, sometimes a little bit less, and there are still people living there.
Yeah, so
which means there are 20 different communities.
The IDF is there to protect us, not to take over the land.
The IDF is there not in order to control the land or using the natural resources of Syria, the water, etc. The IDF is there in order to make sure that people of Marom Golan and the other communities being along the border will feel safe. Part of them traumatized after October 7. Which means that there are people over there, 30,000 people living in the buffer, and meanwhile the idea is that they will continue to live their lives pretty much in the same way as they lived before. Some will say even better, in a way that before that the different Shiite militias, Iranian proxies, used to knock on their doors and in one hand offer money if you join my militia, and on the other hand had a knife. Means if you refuse to join, bring your daughter and I'll show you the way that I use the knife. So today it's not the situation. In the same time that we have Israeli forces, we have what's called the General Service, which is semi-police, semi-military force of the new regime. So you won't see military forces of Jolani getting here to the area. There are no official agreements. There are understanding, kind of memorandums of understandings, not official.
We're kind of talking with them, right?
We're trying to talk with them. I can say that the last talks, I cannot call them direct talks. There were Americans being involved, but they were in Paris, and that was January 5th. But I think that the main thing that concerning Israel here is the indoctrination that we see in Syria, the Islamization that we see over there, the treatment toward minorities. Because here, on one hand, the guy playing basketball with Americans, but on the other hand means, in Arabic, they will say تحت طاولة وعلى طاولة, under the table and up on the table. The reality look very different, which means that he can talk with the West. He decided to engage, which is allowed in the Islam to do. He's criticized by ISIS for doing that, by people that more radical than him. But underneath, you see something very different. For example, education. I think that education, that's an excellent indicator to understand what Syria is trying to be, what they're trying to get to. Because today, a child that go to school in Syria, in most of the schools of Syria, there are about 140 of them left, about 90 of them having the new curriculum, which is practically the curriculum of Al-Qaeda.
Wow.
And the child will say that Allah is great, Allahu Akbar, and then there's no God besides Allah, and it's all fine, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah, and it's all good. But then the teacher will ask him, so what is our message? And the children will say, our message is the Islam. And then they will ask them, and what is our constitution? And they will say our constitution is the Quran. When I say my constitution is the Quran, it makes me to be what called in the Islam Salafi, Salafiyah, that want to bring the Islam back to the 7th century, that recognize the Quran and the Quran only, which means that, and then the next thing is going to be, what is our way? Our way is the jihad.
Yeah.
So jihad have different interpretations. What is the jihad? And the Salafis believe that there's practically only violent jihad. Once the majority of the Islam believe that the jihad is the effort that every human being need to do with himself in order to become a better person. So when I talking about the violent jihad, then the teacher asks them, okay, so what is our way? And the jihad, and then what is our goal? Our goal is to liberate Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem.
Wow.
And here I have a problem, which means with 3 clauses here, I do have a problem. And that's the way that they actually educating people.
So Hezbollah is not there, the Shiites, but now we have a different jihadist, Sunnis in this case, that also wants to take out us, the Jews, from the land or take over somehow.
So that's a big question. On one hand, we come in and say, okay, we do understand that the whole country is traumatized by October 7. And then it brings us to try to and protect ourselves better, to defend. But then there's a big question, what are we missing here something? Because on one hand, we had Iran, that's not the situation anymore. On the other hand, means we do have, seems like an Islamist regime. We see how they build the government, we see how they build the army.
So we are not sleeping. Not that we're sleeping with eye opens, we're not sleeping. We're trying
So we say respect and suspect, so here we suspect and suspect, but in the same time, we do trying to engage. On one hand, we come in and say, okay, we won't compromise on security issues and we're going to have that force being on the other side. In the same time, we do trying to talk with Jolani. Eventually, he decided to engage with the West. That's something big.
Yes.
So we do trying to engage. But then in the same time, you come in and see massacre of Christians in the area of Damascus. It's not very far. A big Christian city that called Sokalbia. And then we see another massacre of Alawites on March last year.
Yeah.
And that's the minority that ran the country, but they're persecuted now, not necessarily as a matter of revenge, but also as a matter of the fact that they're not exactly Muslims. Definitely not Sunnis and radicals as the regime is. And then we saw two big massacres of Druze, thousands of people that were murdered and then kidnapped. That was their October 7 in much bigger scale. And then right after that negotiation with Israel on January 5th, just less than a day after, they attacked the Kurds in the northeast part of Syria, which, by the way, the Kurds then blame Israel. They came and said in that negotiation, the only thing that you cared about were Druze in Syria and the fact that you actually tried to help them. Mostly because of the fact that we have 150,000 Druze that live in Israel versus the 700,000 in Syria. And you completely forgot about us. You neglected us, and then a day after, this president realized that he can do whatever he wants and then started to kill Kurds and practically managed to conquer their autonomy
in
northeast part of Syria between the Euphrates and the Tigris River.
You know, we can go deeper into Syria. I do want to take us quickly. We did mention Iran, and I think we did cut the way, but the war with Iran is still on, and I think what occupies the attention of the North today is Lebanon mostly. Can you give us maybe a quick status? What's going on? Like, what's the main threat that everyone's talking about, and what's going on in Lebanon in terms of Israeli actions right now?
Okay, so here, once we're talking about Lebanon, we do talk with Lebanon, but we fight against Hezbollah. And there is a big question, what Lebanon is more? Which means that whether there's a state of Lebanon and there's Hezbollah, or that Hezbollah that has the state of Lebanon. And it's a question that I think that different Lebanese will answer different answers.
It's pretty clear for everyone that Hezbollah is much stronger than any formal Lebanese force. Stronger in terms of power and also quantity. They have a lot of combatants and they control.
So I think that if we ask ourselves what Hezbollah is more, means Hezbollah eventually established by Iran on April 82. So what is Hezbollah more? Hezbollah is more Lebanese organization, because eventually the people that serve Hezbollah, they are mostly Lebanese. Or Hezbollah is more Iranian organization, or more Shiite organization that take care of the Shiites and doesn't care about the Sunnis that live in Lebanon, and the Christians that live in Lebanon, and the Druze, and the other different groups. There are 18 different groups over there. So I think that we got our answers during this war. Because Hezbollah practically drew Lebanon into this war on October 8 for the Palestinians or for Hamas, starting to support them. They started to launch the rockets. And then a war of attrition developed. Once the turning point was the murder of 12 kids from Majd al-Shams. That was the point that Israel decided to practically remove the gloves.
Summer of 24, yeah.
And eliminated practically kind of a chief of staff of Hezbollah, Haj Muhsen Fuad Shukr. That was July 30, 3 days after that Hezbollah attack. And then it developed into the pager and the elimination of most of the leadership and 80% of their rockets and missiles. And since October 1st, the ground maneuver. But then there was a second time that Hezbollah again drew Lebanon into a war that wasn't theirs. And that was after Israel eliminated the supreme leader of Iran, Ali Khamenei. So I think that in that point we realized the interests of Hezbollah are mostly connect with the interests of Iran and not necessarily the interests of Lebanon. Which means that if Hezbollah got their legitimacy in Lebanon by being the protector of Lebanon, because the Lebanese had a long civil war that practically ended in 1989. And all the different militias over there fighting each other were practically disarmed, besides Hezbollah and, of course, the Lebanese armed forces.
Yeah.
Why Hezbollah managed to keep their weapons and actually got the support of the Lebanese to keep their weapons? Because of the fact that Israel was in Lebanon at that time, and this is Hezbollah fighting Israel. This is another question. Israel left Lebanon, retreated from Lebanon on May 2000. How come Hezbollah was still operating all their militias and forces that they had? But the thing here was that the Lebanese, most of them, just want to live their lives. They want to do business. They don't want to have wars. And definitely not with a strong army as the Israelis.
You're talking about the Lebanese Sunnis, Christians, Druze, but also the Shiites?
So many of those Shiites also want to live their lives. But with the Shiites,
the
it's a
criticism.
little bit different. How come? Because of the weakness of the Lebanese government. And the weakness of the government of Lebanon, that's what brought the PLO to get into Lebanon since the late 60s. That was expelled by Israel, at least their leadership, during the first Lebanon war, 82 up to 85. And that weakness, that's what brought to the establishment of Hezbollah and their entrenchment in the southern part of Lebanon. For Shia that living in the southern part of Lebanon, now the situation is a little bit different, but up to 2 months ago, it was about getting my house, probably from Hezbollah, because I cannot take a mortgage, and Hezbollah can provide that. Hezbollah can give me a loan without paying interest, because they had their own bank system.
And thanks to Iran.
Iran, of course.
Billions
so that
of dollars, yeah.
bank system was legal in Lebanon and still is, called Qard al-Hassan, that practically help people to survive the economic situation of Lebanon, which means that once Lebanon was in an economic crisis, in general Lebanon, here the Shiites in Lebanon barely felt that. And now I want to fuel my vehicle. The gas station that I go into, that's Amana station, and that's part of Hezbollah. Education system, part of Hezbollah. Health system, part of Hezbollah. Which means they managed to get into the vacuum the Lebanese government left.
But the main goal of all of this economy that you're describing is basically to destroy Israel. That's what has been proven by their action.
Yeah, but for most of those Shiites, that was a way to live. Which means
I understand. I just want to share with everyone.
They realize
it's hard
that
to understand, because if you look at Lebanon, they say, wow, a very social organization that supports so many people, but using the economy that was created around these people and proving it by the two proofs that you just mentioned, when Hezbollah took a decision to draw Lebanon into a war which was not theirs, it's using their power to try to cause Israel a damage, or to take over the north, or to take over Israel.
And I think that the second time that Hezbollah decided to do it over the elimination of Ali Khamenei was much harder for most of the Lebanese, including their base, the Shiite base, because of the fact that they also realized that Hezbollah severely degraded by Israel. Which means if you have left now with 20,000 missiles, how come, and losing all the leadership, losing the leader of Hassan Nasrallah, which means that how come you dare to stand now against Israel, endangering us? And now as a proof, more than 1 million of those Shiites that lived in the southern part of Lebanon lost their houses. And they're trying to get into different villages there in Lebanon, being stopped by Christians, by Druze, by others,
by the Lebanese,
that come in and say, because of you we have this situation. And now publicly, they blame Hezbollah instead of Israel. And publicly, there are many Lebanese talking about normalization with Israel, about peace in Israel, about drinking whiskey in Tel Aviv.
And Israelis talking about going to vacation in Beirut. That's amazing. But
that's something that never happened. Leave the Israelis. Israelis are not naive, but we have hope, we're seeking for peace. But now to hear Lebanese that dare to stand against Hezbollah, meanwhile it's mostly about talking, not necessarily doing. But actually stand against Hezbollah, being in the main channel of the Lebanese television, coming and say, yes, we want to have peace with Israel. And Hezbollah called them traitors.
Yeah, that's, I think we should quickly go over what really, when the war with Iran starts at the end of February, so Hezbollah starts launching rockets towards the northern part of Israel. Israel is attacking Masomen, not too much because all the Air Force is busy with Iran, but there's attacks in Beirut. There is already a maneuver that goes inside Lebanon, which actually, correct me if I'm wrong, but the moment we have a ceasefire in Iran, all the attention goes to Lebanon, and for a week, until Trump stopped us in Beirut, we did attack, and what's the practical thing that's really happening on the border? Because I know I've seen pictures of a big change in the border, and I think people don't understand one thing. We have Israeli communities and Lebanese Shiite communities almost attached to each other, but it's no longer.
So that's not longer the situation. And the situation started when when Hezbollah attacked Israel after October 7, the main concern of Israel was from invasion.
Yeah.
Which means that it felt in the beginning at least, till we started to get better intelligence, it was all coordinated by Iran. And Hamas trying to distract us by attacking there from the south, and the main force that was built by Hezbollah since '06 will attack us from the north. And then we're going to see atrocities even much worse than those ones that we had in Gaza envelope. They plan to conquer the whole Upper Galilee, including cities like Nahariya, with 80,000 people. So the decision was to evacuate 43 different communities with more than 60,000 people. Gradually, Israel, unfortunately only a year and a half after, brought those people back. And by committing that now it's much safer. That we degraded Hezbollah, they all understood that the organization is still there, but not as strong as they were. And now we had Hezbollah being part of this current war. We had Hezbollah supporting here Iran, launching missiles. And Israel made a decision that we have to make sure that at least that threat of invasion and the threat of anti-tanks missiles that cannot be intercepted, we're talking about short-range, direct-range missiles. So we're going to conquer a buffer that will make sure that we have an ability to push that threat a little bit further north. And that buffer that we're talking about something in between a mile to something like 4 or 5 miles, and now a little bit more than that.
From the official border.
From the official international border that was built for that purpose. In this case, in contrast to the situation with Syria, the orders of Israel and demand from the people that lived over there in the southern part of Lebanon, the Lebanese, was to evacuate their villages in order to keep themselves safe. Which means that Israel came and said, if you have any connection with Hezbollah, or you know where Hezbollah is basing in the village, whether they use your house or they use the mosque or the clinic or the school, means you need to evacuate the village in order to, stay alive. And it created a wave of people that moving out.
If you read this is important, I think. When you read the calls of evacuation of Israeli army, it's in Arabic, and it says to ensure we're doing it because we are attacked by Hezbollah from your village.
And we knew that, and then we discovered that getting into the houses, that almost every house was used by Hezbollah. There are 41 Lebanese villages, that were practically touching the border fence. In every house, without an exceptional, there was something connected with Hezbollah. It can be a missile, it can be a mortar, it can be a shaft getting into a tunnel system, it can be different maps. In every house there was something. What are the communities that Israel decided not to touch, not to evacuate, and sometimes not even to get in? The Christian communities. Which means you're going to go there along the border and see the village of Adese being destroyed, touching the border. Kile being destroyed. Those are two villages right above Metula, the Israeli community. And then, as the ridge continue, you will see Klea. You're going to see Marjayun. These are Christian villages. They are there. The gardens are blooming now. Means people can live their lives there almost normally. And then you see Al-Hayam. Al-Hayam is a village that Israel halfly destroyed during the last attacks against Hezbollah, then up to November last year. And then we realized they started to launch missiles and rockets from those parts that were heaven destroyed. And at this point now, we're destroying the whole village. The idea is eventually to make sure that Hezbollah won't have the ability to return to those villages. What's going to happen in the future? I don't know. I think that in this case, Israel do give a chance for diplomacy. US is here, decided to be involved. All the eyes eventually facing Iran. But in the same time, as we speak, there's negotiation with Lebanon, with the government of Lebanon.
Do you think any Iranian deal can influence the north? I mean, like
Definitely. So I'm not sure about a deal. Man, I do know that if eventually, and we're trying to be optimistic here, that the regime in Iran will be replaced, that's something that is going to have a direct effect on Hezbollah, a direct effect on Hamas, and other different militias. Because that's eventually an octopus. The head is in Tehran, the tentacles are all around Israel here. affecting not only us, but many different countries in the Middle East. And that's something that's definitely going to change, because eventually Iran, that's the anchor. That's the anchor for most of those groups. And without having the economic support of Iran, the military support, or even the command, which means that now those ones that commanding Hezbollah are not necessarily Lebanese, but the Revolutionary Guard Corps.
Yeah.
Which means that for me it was very encouraging to see that the government of Lebanon came and said, we're changing now the conditions for an Iranian visa getting into Lebanon. Means we want to expel now the Iranian ambassador, something that eventually haven't done as a result of the threats of Hezbollah.
Yeah, I think this is what people don't understand, how the Iranian influence over our life is like every. I mean, when Hezbollah is no longer strong or will be disarmed, the north of Israel will be blooming, and even before tourists will start coming back to Israel, the Israelis will feel more secure. There's a lot of bed and breakfasts and businesses, and everything is on hold. And I'm taking you to a different story, because there's a tactical problem that we were not prepared for it in the border with. I mean, we have soldiers in these villages. There are few outposts Israel built inside Lebanon, but still people who follows the sirens, a lot of people get the sirens. You see sometimes sirens, and most of it's less rockets, since Israel is not attacking Beirut. It's less rockets and mortar shells. It's mostly the drones. But this time, drones that we cannot cut their connection.
So here we're not even talking about regular UAVs, means unmanned aerial vehicles. We're talking about mostly like eBay drones.
Quadrocopters, yes.
But in this case,
but they
they're
connected
attached
with a cord.
or an RPG or another type of explosive, and there's optical fiber that they're attached with, which means that the ability of Israel to use electronic warfare, try to intercept those drones, barely exists in this case.
We lost 5 soldiers already.
Yeah, and many got injured, and that's kind of a daily issue now. And we saw only yesterday that they used a flak of those drones on an Israeli target along the border on the Israeli side. And there was a drone that was filmed by one of the security cameras getting inside Metula.
And waiting.
The Israeli side, yeah.
Hovering in the air.
Yeah,
waiting
actually the operator lost control over it. But definitely it's not even a tactical weapon today. I can say that this is a strategic weapon.
Because this may cause it's hard to live when you know there is a drone can wait for you when you go out of your door if you're...
So that's something small. It can be over our heads. Until it's going to be right here above us, we probably won't hear or see it. So that's a big issue. There's no army in the world that managed to find a 100% solution for that. So it seems like the Ukrainians made quite a progress. They leaving this drone reality.
It's unbelievable what's going on in Israel in the past few weeks. Just coming here, I heard in the news Prime Minister Netanyahu gathered a discussion about this subject. I think there were like hundreds, if not dozens, of startups that the army is trying, and it seems like they're saying that there's some drones, anti-drones and stuff, but there's no 100% yet.
So yeah, because we calling ourselves startup nation, and eventually that startup nation starts from military needs. And there's a soldier who's 18 years old, he's joining 8200, which is the Israeli version of the NSA, suddenly finding himself in a position that he need to find different solution to complicated things. As the same as the tunnels that we had then from Gaza, that was the main challenge for Israel, and Israel together with US managed to develop a system that identified any underground and every underground activity, and then it was used in Lebanon in a big operation that we had starting from December 2018. So also here, we work in a very similar way. The best engineers, young guys, sitting in closed rooms.
I believe they'll have a solution.
With the door being locked till they're going to find a solution, and that's going to be the only way that they can get out. No, the idea is that I think that, if someone will find a solution for the drone, that's probably going to be Israel.
Yeah.
And today we have no other option but to find it, because Hezbollah realized we have less missiles, and those ones that we have can be intercepted by the best defense systems that exist in the world. In terms of warriors, it's pretty unbelievable. You get into a village, and it seems like that those guys were deployed there, Hezbollah terrorists, But then you get inside and you actually see them running, which means there are, yeah, from time to time you can look at their eyes, but those are the exceptionals. And now they realize that it's much more effective to fight Israel by drones.
Cheap.
And meanwhile, we also find different cheap solutions for that, different nets around the Humvees and the tanks. And it's kind of, you know, it's a 10, 20, 50% solution, depends on the situation. And I believe that in the next few months, the question if we have those few months, Israel will find a solution to the problem. We have no other option.
I want to take this, if we have a few months to finish here, because maybe we'll come again, or you guys will come visit Shulman, and you'll see it's, I think being here, there's a lot of information that we can share, but being here, seeing it in the land, first the border with Syria, second the border with Lebanon, and seeing Israel, and understanding the need for security is something that is not, you cannot, I mean, understand it from home. You need to see it. I mean, how the geography is built, how, I mean, and many people in the world don't get this information. So I want to invite you all to meet Shulman. I want to thank you. If you have anything to share for last, or just.
I would say that the amazing part is that we're standing here, and I think that I feel safe.
Yes.
And we are by the Syrian border. And we sitting in Tel Aviv, and it feels safe, and the rest of the country feels safe. Now it seems like that the problem is mostly along the Lebanese border. Of course, we'll find a way, and we're going to solve that problem. We have the Iranians, we need to solve that. We have different issues to deal with. But eventually, I'm quite optimistic. I think that Israel now is in a much better situation than we were on pre-October 7, yes. Once our enemies got stronger and bigger, and we, besides gathering much of intelligence, didn't do much against that.
For sure, much less rockets aiming on us.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you so much. And everyone, hope to see you in Israel. See you.